The Animal Crossing games weren't always something I had interest in. Before I ever knew about the series, I was familiar with other life sim games like Harvest Moon and The Sims, but when I played those games, I had objectives to work toward. And when I first heard about Animal Crossing, it didn't seem like there was an objective to complete. My introduction to the series was with Animal Crossing City Folk for the Wii, well, outside of Super Smash Bros. Brawl. I remember watching trailers for the game on the Wii's Nintendo channel, but the only thing that caught my attention was that the game used the Wii Speak accessory, since talking to strangers online was still a foreign concept to me. Anyways, a year later, my sister rented the game and I watched her get started, and during that week, I didn't think the game was very engaging. I never made a file, but most of the joy I got was watching my sister assault Rhonda with a butterfly net and mailing her death threats. Other than that, she'd run around shaking trees for pears and bells, and it was as mundane could get. Also around this time, by some coincidence, my best friend had Animal Crossing for the GameCube and was trying to get me to like it, so I made a file and it was just as boring as watching City Folk. I thought it was so odd how this game was pulling people in because it was doing nothing for me, and I just wanted to know why they liked it. Well, my sister rented City Folk again a few months later, and a particular piece of furniture grabbed my attention. It was a warp pipe from Super Mario Bros., and suddenly I wanted to see what other Mario knickknacks there were to discover. So I made a file and started to get hooked on the game now that I had an objective. We never ended up buying City Folk, but we rented it a few more times where we fucked up the village by time traveling to Easter over and over again to collect and sell the furniture, and then we ruined everyone's houses by selling them fish and bugs during the flea markets. Those were my memories with City Folk, and around this time I wound up buying Animal Crossing for the GameCube because it was cheaper, and I got hooked on that for a few months. I wasn't logging in daily, but I played long enough to pay off my house, and then I'd pop in occasionally to buy lottery tickets in hopes of winning the hamster cage or an NES game. And although I was having fun with Animal Crossing, I lost interest in the game and felt no reason to come back. Then when the 3DS was out, I discovered a new Animal Crossing game was being made for the handheld. I wasn't following Nintendo-related news to know when new trailers or details were released, so all I had to keep me hyped was a few screenshots and a piece of concept art where the city from City Folk would be part of the village. And that was all I knew for 2 years until the game released in Japan. I watched a few YouTube videos, but kept myself mostly unspoiled because I really wanted to immerse myself into this new game and experience as much as I could in a blind playthrough. And when Animal Crossing New Leaf released on June 9th, 2013, I was finally able to start my adventure. Animal Crossing games are always a slow burn at the beginning, and the newly released Animal Crossing New Leaf is no exception. I don't have another copy to show what the first days are like, but most of the stores aren't available, and the main shop, Nooklean's Junction, has very little inventory. So if you want tools like a butterfly net or a fishing rod to actually start collecting money, you'll have to wait a day or two. And speaking of the net and rod, that's where a lot of the gameplay comes at the beginning. Wandering around to catch butterflies or sitting at the beach to catch fish. It's really boring, and I can't blame anyone who gives up this early because it takes weeks to unlock and upgrade the stores. I was playing this game every single day the summer New Leaf launched, and I think it took me 3 months to get every store unlocked and Nooklean's Junction and its final upgrade. A little after I got my copy, my sister bought the game too, and for the first time we could actually play the game together. We spent a lot of nights visiting each other's villages. There isn't much to do once you go to someone's village. I suppose you can see their house and what villagers they have, but that's fun once, and then again there isn't much to do. That's where the island comes in. The island has two main purposes, catching beetles and minigames. The beetles on the island are the quickest way to grind money, but it starts to become a chore because getting money, especially enough money to pay off your house or fund community works projects, takes a long time to do. There's also the minigames I mentioned. The island has its own currency to buy some exclusive items which can only be earned from the minigames. They're fun distractions for a little bit, but I'd rather play any other minigame collection before these. The one minigame I do like is hide and seek, where you go around a pre-made village and find villagers who are hiding behind trees and houses. And speaking of the villagers, let's talk about them. They put the animal in Animal Crossing since, what do you know, they're all animals. When you start your game, you get a few villagers to chill with, and slowly a few more move in afterwards. These are usually the characters that become your favorites and least favorites. I joined my sister's village in City Folk after a year, so I had my bro squad of Pierce, Joey, Walker, and Wolfgang. And on the GameCube, some of my favorites were Ace, Quetzal, Rosie, Olivia, Alfonso. I'd reset my second file all the time, so I've been well acquainted with a ton of villagers, but Pierce is my all-time favorite. In New Leaf, I didn't care too much for the villagers I started with, but my best friend out of the gate was Chow. Chow was actually the least favorite villager of my friend that tried to get me into Animal Crossing on the GameCube, so ironically, Chow became a reminder of those days. Around August, I started watching YouTube videos to see other people's villages, and one person was talking about how they used the subreddit Adopt My Villager to get their favorite character in their game. At this point, I didn't know what Reddit was, if it was a forum or something else, but I looked up Adopt My Villager to see what it was all about. Basically, it's a place to sell and buy villagers who are moving out. Some villagers are really popular, so people are willing to pay a pretty penny to get them. These include Stitches, Lucky, Anka, Marshall, and Julian. And guess who had Julian? Your boy! Once the horse said he was moving out, I put his ass up for auction and got 17 million bells. Do you know how much 17 million bells is in Animal Crossing? I could pay off 2 whole houses with that kind of money. So basically, I'm walking around town, rich as fuck, just waiting for my neighbors to suggest public's worst projects. Japanese bridge? Sure. Police station? Hell yeah. Stadium lights? You got it. A replica of Stonehenge? Why didn't you guys suggest that? My sister lives in the suburbs and they have a Stonehenge. Why don't y'all want a Stonehenge? I'm paying. So yeah, I decorated my town, and getting that level of freedom made the game all the more fun. So here's a quick tour. In the northeast is the Business Boulevard. I lined up the police station, the cafe, and Reset Surveillance Center with the town hall. And just below those is retail and my mansion. I also have all the fruit trees up here too. Below my house is a park. I didn't know what to put here originally, but all the playground equipment you can build inspired me to put one together. Just to the left of the park is a little bamboo patch. I like the bamboo, but only in small groups. And south from here is my campsite. It's cozy and secluded, and if I had a Stonehenge, I'd put it over here. West from the campsite is the plaza. I think it's in the perfect spot because I can put plants and sidewalks all around it. North of the plaza and along the river are my picture boards. The standees are a bit awkward to work with, but I love making pixel art and clothing patterns. The Kirby standee I downloaded with a QR code. That's also where the Reggie pit originated from. And I also made the flood boxes from Super Mario Sunshine with signposts here too. You saw the soccer field earlier, but I built that since I figured out I could and because I unlocked the stadium lights. But I bet you're wondering where all the houses are. Well, I've got all but Celia in the northwest corner, or along the mountain, and I bet you're wondering how I managed to get them there. This game has an exploit where you can choose where a new villager puts their house the day before they move in. It's super handy, but if you have 8 or 9 villagers, be prepared to do the exploit before you start playing to prevent anyone from destroying flowers or moving on a sidewalk. So how does it work? The first time you start the game for the day, make a new character. You'll be able to walk around town before you save, and during that point, you can see where a new house is getting placed. If you don't like the place they picked, reset and try the game until you're satisfied, which is when you'll continue and eventually save. This only works if you create a new character, because the game saves the house's location if a pre-existing file opens the game first. I don't know why it works, but it does. If it wasn't evident already, I bought most of my villagers from Adopt My Villager. Most characters typically range from free to 1 million bells because they aren't universally popular, so everyone but Rosie and Wolfgang were pretty cheap to get. Those two along with Whitney are featured in the Animal Crossing movie, which isn't a particularly great movie, but the reason I left Whitney out is because I'm pretty sure I got her from street passing with someone who had her moving out. One of the problems playing New Leaf with my sister was that we usually got each other's villagers when they moved out from street passing, which makes move-ins less exciting. So I used Reddit to get my old favorites and some of the new characters whose designs I liked. Bianca and Celia I think look cute, and Flurry reminded me of the dwarf hamster I used to have. I guess you could say I like white girls. So now that you've seen the village, let's give a tour of my crib. The entrance is a kitchen featuring the entire Alpine furniture set for maximum feng shui. This is by far my favorite room in the house. To the left is my golden cabana bathroom that doubles as a spare bedroom. This set is exclusive to the island, so it took me forever to get every piece, and the wallpaper and floor are extremely rare, so I bought them off the AC Trade subreddit. The back room is my bedroom. I sort of tried to replicate my own bedroom and include a recording station. You can also see I was trying to collect pictures for every Eagle villager. The right room is a game room. I didn't quite know what to do here, but I wanted the card furniture. The Fedora chairs I got from using the Nintendo Zone app on the 3DS. If you went to Best Buy or McDonald's at certain times and hooked up to their Wi-Fi, you could get exclusive items. Upstairs is another gold room. This set is incomplete because gold is hard to get, and turning it into furniture I need is all luck-based. And the basement. Yikes. I've got villager picks, Japan exclusive items, and some sloppy furniture here. I don't remember how to get sloppy furniture, but I know it's extremely rare. The Japanese furniture I got because there were some people on Reddit who could duplicate items and I had the money, so I bought some. I have 2 other houses in my village. The first I made to flex my money by buying the remaining Gracie Grace furniture, and I wanted to use a girl character, which I aptly named Girl. The other house is a replica of my grandma's house. It's a place that's very dear to me because I've spent so much of my childhood there, so I thought it would be fun to build it with my excess Julian money. It was really fun figuring out which items resembled her real furniture and then trying to make everything fit in a square-shaped room. I surprisingly fit every room except for her garages and the front yard, although technically outside is not a room. As I've been alluding to, collecting is one of my favorite aspects in the game because it fills that itch to complete things and lets me become a hoarder. The museum is the perfect place to do both of those. The fossils were my favorite to collect because dinosaurs are cool, but they're also not limited to specific seasons like bugs and fish are. Bugs I 100%'d surprisingly, but those aren't as random as fish are. I got most of the fish, but I'm missing quite a few from scuba diving. Fishing wasn't my favorite activity anyways. And then there's the art. You can only get one piece of art each week if Crazy Red shows up, but the further you get, the more likely you'll run into duplicates. The sculptures are uncommon, so most of what I'm missing are sculptures. Upstairs in the museum, you get access to storage rooms where you can display more items you've found. This is where I store all the Nintendo-related items since there's just too many to put in my house, and I also store most of my gyroids here too. The gyroids were one of my favorite things when I started playing the games, but because there's so many, it becomes annoying to keep them once you find 50 or so. Big shout out to the Mega Quazoid though. And then I have a room for holiday and more Nintendo Zone items, and my last room is full of achievement items like trophies and coffee shop awards. My favorite thing to collect though were the badges. These are so tough to get since most of them require playing the game for a long time. Like, I'd guess some of these take years to get gold without time traveling. I managed to get bronze in every category, which was my final goal for this game. I was actually missing one badge before I started recording gameplay, but a Google search and 30 minutes of writing letters later, and I can finally close the book on this one. And there's one last collectible to talk about, Amiibo cards. A few years after New Leaf released, there was a spin-off called Happy Home Designer, which came with Amiibo cards. I'll probably talk about my experience collecting Amiibo another time, but their use in New Leaf is that you can scan a card to get special items from that villager, or you can invite them to move in. I think this is a really nice method to get your favorite characters, but because I used Adopt My Villager long before the cards were made, I don't really need them, at least not until New Horizons comes out. And I'm really excited for New Horizons, but I don't think I'll be sinking in as much time into it like I did with New Leaf. I love how easy the developers have made it to get your favorite villagers, and how you get to decide where they put their house. There's so many quality of life updates that are going to make it the definitive Animal Crossing experience, and I can't wait to get started. So yeah, Animal Crossing New Leaf was more than a life simulator. It was a drug. I played nearly every day for 9 months straight, and even after that I was still playing for months after. It was my introduction to Reddit, which helped me get into the online gaming community, and with that I was able to turn my experience about a game where you chat with your neighbors and decorate a house into one where the neighbors weren't in the game, but the people in real life. And if it weren't for them, I don't think Animal Crossing would be as memorable of a game for me as it turned out to be. Also, Isabelle in Smash Bros. Is sick! So that's going to be it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, grow, and subscribe to get updates on my uploads as soon as they happen. But until then, I will see you all next time.